B, gold just hit another all-time high. And I don't mean the polite kind, the kind where markets shrug and move on. I mean the kind where central banks are quietly loading up at record pace, the dollar is losing ground it's held for 80 years, and every major institution on the planet is repositioning right now, while most individual investors are still debating whether to buy more of the same S&P 500 index fund they've held since 2019. If that doesn't make you stop and think, it should. Here's the setup. For the last 40 years, gold returned somewhere around 6 to 7% annually. Boring, respectable, fine. But over the last 5 years, gold has averaged nearly 20% per year. That's not a metal behaving like a safe haven. That's a metal behaving like it knows something the rest of the market doesn't. And the strangest part isn't the return. It's that stocks are also near all-time highs. So are real estate valuations in most major metros. Risk assets are partying, and gold is also partying. That's not how this is supposed to work. And that contradiction is exactly what we need to talk about today. The obvious explanation everyone reaches for first is inflation. And yes, inflation. Is real. It hit your grocery bill, your insurance premiums, and somehow your Netflix subscription all at the same time. But here's the problem with that theory. If gold were purely an inflation trade, it would have exploded in 2021, when CP1 was running above 7% for months straight. And it didn't. Gold barely moved. So inflation alone isn't the driver. It's a piece of the story, but it's not the story. The real story is what's happening underneath, and it's a lot more structural and a lot more significant than the price of eggs. Foreign central banks are slowly, strategically losing confidence in the US dollar as their primary reserve asset. Not abandoning it, not panicking, just quietly hedging. And the vehicle they're moving into is gold. 20 years ago, over 70% of global foreign exchange reserves were held in US dollars. Today, that number is closer to 58%. That's a 12-point drop across the world's largest central banks. In absolute terms, that's trillions of dollars being redirected. And where is it going? For the third consecutive year, central banks globally purchased over 1,000 tons of gold. That's more than double their historical pace. And 95% of surveyed central banks expect their gold holdings to increase again over the next 12 months. That's not a trend, that's a structural shift. These institutions aren't buying gold because they read a tweet about it. They're buying it because they're genuinely less certain the US financial system will remain the world's anchor. And when the people managing sovereign wealth get nervous quietly, that is the signal worth paying attention to. Now, if you're managing serious wealth, say a 7-figure portfolio, the question isn't whether gold is going up or down from here. You can't know that. Nobody can. The question is, what does it mean when the most sophisticated institutional buyers in the world are quietly increasing their allocation, while most American retail investors still have zero gold exposure? It means there's an allocation gap, and closing it, even partially, isn't about becoming a gold bug. It's about understanding that gold functions differently when the system it's meant to hedge against is under pressure. Right now, it's earning its place again not as a relic but as a genuine portfolio diversifier with asymmetric upside in the specific scenarios that also hit equities the hardest. Whether that's physical gold, a gold ETF, or exposure through miners, the point is intentionality. Knowing why it's in your portfolio and what role it's playing, rather than just chasing a chart. Here's what I keep coming back to. A friend of mine built a solid 8-figure business, sold it in 2021. Smart guy told me recently he had zero gold in his portfolio. Not because he had thought about it and decided against it, because he would simply never made the decision. It just wasn't on his radar. And the truth is, most people with real wealth are in that same position. Not uninformed, just undecided. The problem with undecided is that markets don't wait for you to decide. The repositioning is already happening. The central banks are already moving. And by the time this feels urgent, the opportunity window looks very different than it does today. Wealth preservation isn't just about picking the right assets. It's about recognizing when the rules of the game are changing before the headlines make it obvious to everyone. So here's the question I'll leave you with. If the most powerful central banks in the world are diversifying away from the system your portfolio is built on, what does your hedge look like? If you have a clear answer, drop it in the comments. That's where the real conversation happens on this channel. And if you want to keep getting this kind of analysis, the kind that doesn't dumb it down and doesn't waste your time, subscribe. There's a lot more coming.